What if your plans to take on the role as parent could always ensure that any child you give birth to would be healthy? The concept of gene therapy, or editing genes, has been around for the past 40 years, and the term gene therapy was actually coined in 1972. But the 21st century has brought about new approaches in the field of human DNA and chromosomes, and the possibility of science application to actually curing rare and genetic diseases. I would like to discuss the particulars and the effects of gene editing in a specific rare disease community called lysosomal disease. Much of my information is current, and it comes from a recent lysosomal disease conference meeting I was at October 7th, 2017. It was in Minneapolis, Minnesota, at their alumni center. And a lot of what I am saying is going to be my reflection on my notes taken from Dr. Chester Whitley, who is a PhD and MD with the University of Minnesota Medical System, as well as Dr. Janine Jarnes, who is a PharmD, PharmD, because she deals with the pharmacy services in the rare disease community. An example would be how treatments for rare disease would affect other different medications a human body or her patient would be taking. And the reason why I picked these two speakers is because they really addressed current gene therapy concepts. I just wanted to show you the World's Fair I was at. Was the first notes I took, and the Fairview Medical System is where this information is coming from. I'm also going to be referencing Fast Company's article. They were speaking about Jennifer Doudna, and her last name is spelled Doudna. I feel kind of embarrassed that I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, so I wanted to spell it for my audience, in case I'm not. The Fast Company article is taking a look at this molecular biologist and her book, A Crack in Creation, Gene Editing and the Unthinkable Power of Control Evolution. She co-authored this with Samuel H. Sternberg. I would like to tell you a little bit about lysosomal disease, as it's probably not a familiar concept. It wasn't to me for a while, so I had to do research. It's a genetic condition because the child is born with a deficit in either an enzyme or a transport protein. An example would be the disease cystinosis, Cystinosis. It's a genetic mutation or a complete deletion on chromosome 17, which this would look like in a human body. When that genetic mutation happens, that body would undergo kidney failure, retinal and corneal sensitivity to light, which could mean blindness for the patient, muscle weakening, rickets in the bones. Liver, pancreas, and brain are also affected, but the research there is quite limited because cystinosis was historically considered a childhood illness. But now, because of treatment, children with cystinosis are living, growing, and thriving well into adulthood. There still is no working cure for cystinosis, but like I mentioned, the treatment is available to prolong life and give a good quality of life. Cystinosis is only one of over 70 of these types of lysosomal diseases, and cystinosis is only one of 10 of these diseases that have approved therapies to achieve the child's quality of life and survivorship into adulthood. There are over 7,000 different types of rare diseases, and I say types because, over 7,000, how can they be rare? Well, the types mean cystinosis is only one, where there's a patient population group of 500 in the United States. Another rare disease, would maybe have a group of 20 patients or maybe a group of 750 patients, and all of these different diseases combined makes up that 7,000. You caught me slipping up with the word rare disease, interchanging with orphan disease. Often rare diseases are called orphan diseases because pharmaceutical companies will not adapt the drug therapy to treat this illness, which is a big reason why only 10 of them actually have approved treatments. Jennifer Doudna, per Fast Company's article, is a molecular biologist who heads the Doudna Lab at the University of California, Berkeley. and she has recognized a specific gene editing technology called CRISPR. Its acronym is CRISPR. And it was produced about 5 years ago, and it has the power to target and modify specific sections of DNA, which could potentially eradicate rare diseases like lysosomal disease, like cystinosis. So what it would specifically do is if the child or patient had that deletion or that typo, CRISPR would go in and fix whatever that mutation or typo is and introduce a healthy genome into the body, potentially curing the illness. A lot of times this is done through stem cell research. A current medical professional who is working on stem cell bone marrow transplantation for a cure for cystinosis is Dr. Stephanie Cherkay. She has succeeded in eliminating cystinosis in mice with cystinosis. But a mouse and a human are vastly different species in our natural world. And Jennifer Doudna, she sees the beauty, or beauty is the wrong word I'm looking for. She sees the relief that eradicating rare disease would be to families, patients, and parents, but she also sees the harm in the forcible extinction of unwanted disease, which disease isn't a human, so is the human unwanted or is it the disease? Or what about the forcible extinction of unwanted plants and animals with this technology? I'm going to read a quote that she is quoted as saying, in the Fast Company article, she says, CRISPR gives us the power to radically and irreversibly alter the biosphere that we inhabit by providing a way to rewrite the very molecules of life any way we wish. At the moment, I don't think there is nearly enough discussion of the possibilities it presents for good, but also for ill. It's a thrilling moment in the life sciences, but we can't let ourselves get carried away. It's important to remember that while CRISPR has enormous and undeniable potential to improve our world, tinkering with the genetic underpinnings of our ecosystem could also have unintended consequences. We have a responsibility to consider the ramifications in advance and to engage in a global, public, and inclusive conversation about how to best harness gene editing in the natural world before it's too late. My personal concern with CRISPR and gene editing is akin to Jennifer Doudna's above quote. Number one, would this technology eventually lead the way to animals and humans being created specifically for the purpose of donating organs to other individuals, thereby decreasing a life's value from its own merit to only viable if it can save another life? Number two, who is going to decide what species is wanted or unwanted? Number three, I do strongly agree with improving human health and well-being, but at what cost? Will we lose our souls in exchange for what I term designer children? Adults already comment, well, as long as it's healthy, in reaction to an announcement of a couple expecting. While I am sure this is meant in compassion and the meaning of concern for the couple's pregnancy is of course insinuated. But what that statement projects is the idea that an unhealthy offspring is easily rejected and discarded due to inherent unworthiness. What if we could fix it? Should we even entertain the idea of, you need to be fixed? After all, I am a soul that happens to inhabit a body fighting cystinosis, and suffering is not something I derive pity or inspiration from. It's something that fuels my own spirit and takes me places that have resulted in standing before you today. I am no man's reason for living. I am my own person, and I want to be the value I say that I am and pass on that value to others. This is my legacy and my life. If I hadn't been born with cystinosis, or if I hadn't had to live with it, I really can't imagine who I would be. I know I wouldn't be Rebecca Palmer. In summary and conclusion, I do appreciate this time period of medical advancement I live in. Without my kidney transplant and the different therapies for cystinosis, I would not be a 30-year-old woman today. My heart aches for those who live in countries where modern-day medicine isn't available. I really embrace the right to healthcare and treatment for all human beings. Suffering and pain are nothing I would wish on anyone. I just wouldn't. and anyone that lives in this world. My concern is, sorry, there's a fly. My concern is that we live in a world with genetic tools that have this potential to manipulate an unsustainable biosphere, let alone robotically designed human citizenship. Would genetic engineering of genes at birth result in a relapse in these people in their teen years, in their middle adult years, when they're elderly, just because the immune system eradicated childhood disease and it's not efficient anymore? What about the rest of our life? What about the rest of my life? That's my true concern. And I am so glad Jennifer Doudna is asking these hard questions and continuing her research into rare disease technology. Because I am personally and globally concerned about cystinosis, I looked up a pharmacy that specializes in treatments for rare diseases, including cystinosis. It is Horizon Pharmacy, and their SIC code for their products and wholesale department is 512203. Unfortunately, this is the only information Reference USA had on this company. And in closing, I would encourage my classmates to just understand rare disease. I would go to Global Genes. Look, Google Global Genes. They'll give you so many rare disease statistics on everything. And if you're specifically interested in what I addressed as cystinosis, there are 3 USA organizations: Cystinosis Research Network, Cystinosis Foundation, Cystinosis Research Foundation, that all have beautiful websites about the conferences and those living with this disease. So thank you for listening.